Hey everyone, welcome back to the Old Music Matters on That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. Today, welcome a special guest, actually another fellow out of the Vegas region. We got Krystof from the band Gravethorn. How you doing today, brother?
Doing excellent. How are you today?
Not too bad. And actually, yesterday I actually interviewed Jason and Larry from State of War, and they had actually mentioned about you. So are you
Okay.
guys real good friends?
Yeah. I used to be in a band with Jason, and I'm not sure who Larry is. Doesn't mean anything. I have a really bad memory, but yeah, I was in a band with Jason before, and yeah, he's a good guy.
Well, Jason referred to him as Dickhead, so I'm assuming it's not an important person, to be honest.
Jason's got a lot of interesting nicknames for people, including himself.
Do tell. So,
Just he always refers to things as at the lowest common denominator as possible when he tries to align people with things. So, but it's
that's
all
for
good.
sure. Yeah. All right. Have you lived in Vegas your whole life, or have you kind of jumped around a little bit?
No, I'm originally from the East Coast. I moved out here in 2008, and I'm originally from Massachusetts.
That's cool. So this is a little band you were with Jason. I guess what was it called? Do you remember?
It was Achromatica.
Achromatica. I think you did mention about that in the Spotify where it showed like the little profile. So
Yeah. So yeah, it was a pretty cool band. We were doing that for about 6 years, and it was going pretty good. And then things just some things started happening, and there was health issues in the band, and we just ended up dissolving the whole thing. It was all pretty mutually agreed upon, as far as I know, anyway. You know how that is, but and then I still wanted to keep making music, and I started messing around. I had some recording software that I was actually trying to redo the Achromatica demo with, because we hated the mix that we got at the studio. And I said, well, give me a little bit of time. I'll try to figure this out and make it better. And then when the band dissolved, I was like, well, geez, I got all this stuff. So I just started messing around on guitar and recording little tidbits here and there. Eventually I had songs, and then eventually I had enough for a whole CD. So decided, okay, I'm going to release this under a band name, and the name Gravethorn came to me, and looked it up, didn't see anybody with that name, so I snatched it. And then when Bob, the drummer of Achromatica, heard it, he wanted to be a part of it as well. So now it's me and Bob right now. We had a guitar player that came in, excellent guitar player, Robert Emerson. He does lead guitar on one of the songs off of the first one, but unfortunately, work schedules, he bowed out. He's just like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to waste your time. And I feel bad, because he's somebody that the world really deserves to hear, because he's such an excellent guitar player. But we have what looks like another one coming soon. He's been coming to some practices, and he's a good fit for the band, and he's got the talent. We don't want to announce it yet, because he's still in a band, and he wants to tell those guys first before they find out otherwise. So we should hopefully be making that announcement in the next week or two.
in the meantime, mum's the word, as they say. Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I was going to ask about the name Graythorn, because was it just one of those things like it came to me in a dream last night? Was it one of those sorts of instances?
Right. I wasn't sleeping this time, which most of my ideas happen when I am sleeping or about to fall asleep. No, I was just sitting on the couch, pondering some things, and I'm more, I don't like when the current state of band names. I'll be honest with you. I like when back in the day they were typically nouns. Band name was a noun, and now they're more like statements. And it's just like it's kind of no offense to the people doing that, but I think it's just like, oh geez. But I guess when most of the nouns are taken, what are you going to do? But like Achromatica, I kind of made that name up. I have an artist background, and I'm a tattoo artist by trade. So I was trying to think of something that I could make the logo that would be even on both sides. And it's like, okay, you got the A's on the ends, you got an M in the middle, so that you could work with that. And achromatic being, it's a photographer's term for like lifeless, black and white. It's like, okay, that's kind of cool. Lifeless, death. Okay. And then just add an A to the end of it. And, I just made up a word, So that's where Achromatica came from. Gravethorn, kind of similar. It's like the idea of kind of had this weird idea in my head of, what if these wealthy elites from thousands of years ago, they died, and they didn't want anybody robbing their graves, so they put these toxic thorns around it. So if anybody tried to rob the grave, they died on the spot. It's like, okay, yeah, the Gravethorn. Okay, so like I said, looked it up. nobody had it taken, so I said, all right, it's mine. So,
Actually, I was thinking more of the behemoth wolves guard my grave or something like that.
yeah, that's cool too. And
Yeah,
then came up with like 3 other band names afterwards, but it's all good.
that's cool. But you get to elaborate more on your music and everything else here too, just a little bit here too, Chris. But first off, welcome to my podcast. And the way it's going to work is, just guys some questions. It's going to know the man behind the music, as well as all the other little details in between here too. So,
Sounds good.
are you ready?
All right.
All right.
My name is Krystof. I'm from the band Gravethorn, and I'm happy to be here.
That's a good way to start. But I guess let's start back in the beginning when he was a wee lad back in Massachusetts, as you said. So, I guess, who are you, and how did you become a musician?
I've always been into music. I have a sister that's 7 years older than me, so she was always into, back in the '70s and stuff. She was really into hard rock and just rock and roll and stuff. So I had that influence going. I like to stare at the album covers that she had. She was really into Queen. I liked Queen. I liked Aerosmith, and I think I was in junior high when I discovered Black Sabbath, and I was just like, whoa, this is really different, and this is very cool. So I, was trying to listen to a lot of that, and at the same time, Ozzy's solo career was taking off. So I was kind of blown away by some of that stuff. And throughout the '80s, obviously there was an explosion of metal, lots of bands to go through there. I had Dio and Iron Maiden and stuff like that. And then the thrash thing took off. And then my first band I started with my friend Dave Mazza, but it was just more of I had a guitar, he had a bass, and we had a lot of beer money. So we said we were in a band and drank a lot of beer. So that was nothing. But then my first real band in the '90s, it was actually one of the first black metal bands in Massachusetts. It's called Eternity Denied. And we didn't know that we were doing black metal. We were just we were playing stuff. And, at the time there was this competition for who's going to do the deeper vocals, because Chris Barnes has these super deep vocals and all these other bands were doing deep vocals. And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to scream as loud as I could, because in the '80s, as much as I like thrash, I actually liked Bobby Blitz Ellsworth's vocals from Overkill. So I tried to emulate that. I wasn't very good at it, but the range that I was able to pick up out of it worked perfect for black metal. So I was doing it without realizing I was doing black metal. And then when we started hearing these bands that were, this black metal out of Norway that's happening, it's like, that's really not much different than what we're doing. We were doing the screams, we were playing really fast. We had some blast beats going, not as insane as what they're doing now, but at the time it was kind of cool. And then we brought keyboards into it just because it was different for us anyway. I'm not saying we reinvented the wheel or anything, but for our little scene, there was nobody really doing that at the time. And then unfortunately for us, we got played on this Turkish radio station, and it was our song came on, and we thought we were the kings of the world. And then the brand new Immortal Battles in the North came on right after us, and that humbled us pretty quick. Let me tell you, that was the first time I had ever heard that hyperspeed black metal, and I was just like, wow, we gotta step it up. And then that band dissolved. I was in a few other bands after that, but I was really proud of that band. I liked what happened in that. Then I moved out here. I wasn't really looking to be in a band. I thought I was getting too old for it, to be honest with you. It's like, last time I played out, these kids are young enough to be my kids. And then I just felt like the weird old man on stage trying to be a metal guy. And then I hooked up with some guys. We were going to try to play some hard rock. And I realized I absolutely hated my vocals in a hard rock capacity. I just, I'm very out of key and sounded horrible. So the guy that I was jamming with, the guitar player, he introduced me to Bob, my current drummer, who was also in the last band, the other guitar player. And I was like, that's the kind of drummer we need. And that really inspired me to okay, let's go into I can do this one more time. I know I can do it. So that's where Achromatica came from. And then when that band dissolved, that's where Gravethorn was born. And this is kind of my baby. I started it myself. I'm just happy with where it's gotten. It's crazy how the internet works. I'm old school, and I remember the tape trading days, and this is just nuts when you can see these statistics that, a lot of people in Finland were listening to you last week, and people in Zimbabwe were listening to you, and it's just like, what? How is that even possible? But that's the power of the internet for you right there.
Zimbabwe of all countries, man.
We had there was a little surge a couple months ago where a lot of people from the Ukraine were listening to us, and I had actually told Jason from State of War about that. He's like, wow, that's awesome. They're listening to Gravethorn while they're killing Russians. It's like, well, okay.
Apparently it works because we're
Yeah.
killing a whole bunch of Russians. So
Yeah. I guess if you want to overcome something, Gravethorn is the secret to your success.
there's something in it,
Yeah.
something in the music. So, yeah. So I don't know if you mentioned earlier. How did you meet Jason? Was it kind of word by mouth, or you kind of just like collaborating with him on a project?
He was brought into the band, the last band. Glenn brought him into Achromatica. I didn't know him, so that's where I met him. So
That's cool. And I guess
a lot of people out here. These guys, when I would jam with these guys, they all talk about the old days, these old bars when these bands came through and stuff like that. And they go off on these tangents for a while. I just have no idea who they're talking about, what they're talking about. But it's all good. They all have a pretty big connection, and I was just kind of pulled into it by default, I suppose.
I was going to ask, did you get involved with the satanic scare of the '80s when Mayhem and like all those other black metal bands out of Scandinavia, and then it made its way to the States? So I was like, keep that away from my kid, man. So something like that.
It's funny. I was working in a record store at the time, so I had my share, of experience with these bands that were supposedly satanic or what have you, the shock value bands of the day. So I was pretty conditioned to it. And the first time I heard Mayhem, I was at a party. How there's always that one guy in the neighborhood whose parents don't care, and there's just limitless alcohol in the house and weed and drugs and everything, and nobody seems to know what's going on. That's where we had our parties. But anyway, this guy brought over a tape, and I had no idea what it was. But I remember like, wow, this is really intense. What the heck is this? And nobody knew because it was a tape of a tape of a tape. So it was dubbed over. There was no label on it. And he was like, I don't know. Somebody gave it to me. And it was years later when I heard Mayhem's Death Crush. I was like, that's that band. That's because that was the riff. And but after that, the first one I recall hearing, realizing it was a black metal band. It was when Dark Throne, when they had Soulside Journey, that was more of a technical version of a death metal album that was really intense. But then when A Blaze in the Northern Sky came out, I was hooked. I was like, man, this shit is so fast, and it's the first album I ever heard that just sounded, not necessarily evil, but it sounded cold. It was just very cold and icy, and I never experienced anything like that before, where a band could create a sound that made you feel something physical. It's just like, wow, this is intense. So then I started diving into all that stuff, and that's where I discovered Immortal with their first one, Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism. I got into a couple other bands at the time, and then the first time I heard Emperor, that was it. I was blown away, like beyond belief. I didn't know how the hell a band could like play this kind of music where I could close my eyes and just witness these battle scenes with swords and just people getting killed. Literally, it's like this is incredible. I love it. So from there on in, it was pretty good. It was a great time to find and discover all this music that was new at the time. Now with the internet, it's like, yeah, you can pluck things out of the air. That's great. But to actually, when that tape trading network was popular, and that's the way it was done. It was a real rush. Like you found a treasure, because there was a certain amount of effort involved, not just pushing a button. But anyway, I digress.
Well, I think we're coming back to that in just a little bit here too. But first off, I actually did want to ask, I guess Emperor and like all those other ones, is that kind of like the biggest like influence for Gravethorn?
I would say trying to emulate the vocals, maybe, combining, Ishan's vocals with Bobby Ellsworth. And, but then again, like Gravethorn has a lot of different influences because, when I'm sitting there writing stuff, it's like, I was also a big fan of Vital Remains, a fellow New England band at the time. And they were just, to me, they were just, they were the bee's knees at the time. I was just like, wow, these guys are super intense. And when Dechristianized came out, I thought they kind of rewrote metal altogether with that, because it was just so intense and it just hit so hard. I never heard anything quite like that. So I always liked that blackened death metal sound, because you get the best of both worlds. I don't know why people want to limit themselves to one world when there's so much to enjoy. And then, if you listen really close, you might hear some influences of those guys. You might hear a little Belphegor. You might even hear a little Zeppelin or the Doors or something, because I like classic rock too. There's just, I can't say I pull influence from one band or another. I don't even have a favorite band, because it seems like every day I'm discovering somebody new that's blowing me out of the water here. So yeah, just a little bit of it.
I was just going to say Vital Remains when Glenn Bendon came in with the Dechristenizer like 2007. I was like Deicide 2.0, if we want to say that.
I would say, I mean, at the time, and don't get me wrong, I'm a Deicide fan, but at the time, I thought it was just way beyond Deicide, you know. And I liked Deicide. Legion is still one of my favorite albums, although their latest one is right up there. I love that. But anyway, when that came out, it was just like, you know, Deicide on steroids almost. You know, it was insane.
Gave a little crack cocaine to the drummer, but actually Jason said he really hated the snare on the Dechristenize album.
Oh, I didn't hate anything about that album, to be honest with you. I'd have to disagree with Jason on that. But I also, I'm not real picky on certain tones and things like that. Some people, they really break things down to that point, and it's like, you know, okay, if that's what you want to do, cool. I don't get that picky about it because I can enjoy a lot of different things from a lot of different angles.
Actually, what was funny than the way Jason kind of described it too was like, I guess in 2007, that was also when Metallica came out with Saint Anger. You know, people were ripping on Lars because of the bad hitting like the tin can or whatever. So he was saying it was like that. It was like, which one can sound the worst between Vital Remains, Dechristenize, and then Saint Anger from Metallica right there too. So,
you know, I Metallica was one of my bands in the 80s. And after the Black Album, like so many other people, I kind of, you know, I wasn't as into them as I used to be. And but it's funny now that I'm this old man in my mid 50s. It's like I can appreciate that, you know, after the Black Album stuff from a different perspective now. Whereas when I was young and, you know, full of piss and vinegar, it was like, nah, stuff's lame, you know. And now it's like, it was actually really good songwriting, you know. Just, you know, it didn't resonate with me at the time, but hey, it did something right. It resonated with a lot more people. So.
At that old age, you become more humble then.
Yeah.
So, and actually, I do have to ask about what they call like the happy black metal, like Death Heaven, like what they do, for instance. I guess, what's your opinion about the happy black metal?
I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sure if I know what it is. The band you just mentioned, I to my knowledge, I've never heard them. You know, when I'm going through Pandora and stuff like that, when I'm looking for new metal, you know, I typically put on a band that I like and play their station and see if something new comes up. So as far as happy black metal, I wish I had an answer for you, but unfortunately I'm just not that well versed in it.
Well, it's funny because it's technically the same thing with like the black metal, the blast beating, the fast pace, the high pitched screams, and all that stuff. But I think it's more major chords, so it hence the name happy. So
yeah, I mean, you know, I'll be honest with you, you're talking to a guy that can't read music. So when you say major chords, minor chords, and, you know, all these other chords that are out there, it's like, when I play music, I just play what comes out of my head. I was offered lessons, well, not lessons, but a few things from Glenn, our last guitar player in Achromatica. You know, he wanted to show me a few things, and I politely declined. I was like, you know, I don't want to go down that road because then, you know, if this is the way a progression is supposed to go, I don't want to do that. I want to do what's in my head and get what's in my head out of my head without the interference of the proper way to play something, if that makes any sense.
I can see your point, but I guess you're completely self-taught. Is that how it's been throughout your life, or have you taken any sort of lessons somewhere?
Yeah. When I was 18, I took lessons for about a month, and it did not resonate with me at all. I couldn't figure it out. And I also wasn't disciplined enough to practice or anything like that. You know, I was more interested in chasing girls and drinking beers with my friends in my band. But yeah, and you know, I don't regret it, to be honest with you, because it was just like, you know, it's like the kids that's forced to take piano lessons, they end up hating the piano. So I like just using what's in my head. And all the credit in the world to all these guys that took many years of lessons, and they're doing these insane patterns and shredding at lightning speeds. I mean, all the credit in the world to them. I just wasn't that guy. You know, I write music hoping that people like what they hear. You know, metal was always good to me as far as throughout my life. If you have bad times, metal got me through to the other side. So I hope what I create, you know, helps other people do it. I'm sure the real musicians probably look at my music and say this guy's a hack or this guy's this or that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. This is my expression, you know. And if you like it, great. That's all that matters to me. And if you don't like it, you have the right. That's okay. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it, you know.
He's like, I got First Amendment rights here, buddy. So yeah. So actually, did you play at some shows not too long ago? Because I think when I messaged you to kind of pick up because we lost contact during that last bit of 2024 there. Were you playing any shows recently?
No, we don't have a complete band. So it's with just me and Bob, we don't have the members to do it. I mean, I might have done some open mics. I got a friend of mine in town. He's actually a Grammy nominated blues musician, and I've done some open mics with him and stuff. But no, we didn't have anything planned. I mean, yeah, playing shows would be great, but we got to get the band together first. And out here in Vegas, there's just everybody works a different schedule, and it's hard. It's a 24-hour city, so it's hard to get people dialed in and say, okay, let's try for these days. Oh, I can't. I got to work. I can't. You know, and we're older too, so some of these people that I got my kid that week, or I got this going on, that going on. So it's, yeah, I don't want to say it's a lazy band as far as, you know, getting the ball rolling or anything, but we're just not, we're not aggressive about it either, because I'd rather do it right than settle to do it fast, if that makes sense.
All right, fair enough. So, and I do have some questions about from your perspective on the music scene here too, but let's jump into COVID first off here too. So,
Sure.
I guess first off, what year did you make Gravethorn? Was this like early before COVID?
It was right around, I mean, I had some writings in my head before Gravethorn was actually a thing that ended up being in Gravethorn. I mean, one of the songs I wrote, I was still in Massachusetts. I had the idea in my head, and it just always churned in my head, but I didn't really know how to play it, so I had a hard time explaining it. But COVID, when so Gravethorn was formed right after COVID, and COVID was very good to me in the sense that when I was shut down from work, it allowed me to build a recording studio in my spare bedroom, and that's where I was able to start doing all the stuff that eventually led up to Gravethorn. So in that case, COVID was excellent to me, and that was in 2020, I believe. And then I released the first one, Underground Rituals of Those As Unseen, in 2023, because I was still trying to teach myself how to mix and all that. So, and then I got COVID in October of 2023, so I isolated in the studio, and I wrote the new one, Atrocitus, in that week. I just started just recording all kinds of stuff, and eventually I had enough for a whole album again. So COVID was, I don't want to put anything weird out to the universe or anything, but COVID has treated me quite well. So I can't complain, and a lot of people, they complain about a lot of stuff about COVID. Some of it was legit, but it's like, man, take a negative and turn it into a positive if you can. If I can do it, anybody can.
Let's hear that, or go take a nap. That's what you need to do.
If that's what they need to do, sure. But everybody complains about not having enough time for anything. It's like, okay, the world's shut down. You got all the time in the world now. Do it. Go take those online classes and get a degree in something. Whatever you got to do. But just you got all the time to do it, so do it.
Yeah, that's how I was normally pretty introverted. So I guess when it happened to me, first off, it was the first time working from home. But afterwards, I was able to spend time with the parents. I mean, hey, I got to enjoy a nice little nap during lunch. So I mean,
sure.
It was complaining. I was happy with it. So
right.
I bet the world kind of makes me stress. So I mean, humanity teaches me to hate life in a certain way. Whatever you think about it.
I don't blame you there. I do have a funny COVID story in the sense it's a small story. I'm also, as far as hobbies, I'm really into old classic cars and stuff like that. And when everything was shut down in Vegas, got a chance to drive up Las Vegas Boulevard, and there was no traffic, which is very rare. Usually it's bumper to bumper from every light. There was no traffic. So yeah, I drag raced somebody on Las Vegas Boulevard, because when am I ever going to do that again? And, there was no cops to pull you over or anything. So it was great.
I think the cops were taking the bets to see who would win. So
yeah, that's possible. I mean, they were sitting in the parking lots of the casinos because they didn't want anybody, thinking they could rob the place and get $1 million out of it. But yeah, they weren't out here anyway. They weren't like really pulling people over or anything, because they probably didn't want to get COVID either. So they were just like, let him do what he's got to do. Of course, you drive into the worst neighborhoods of town. We got this area called Boulder Highway that's not a great area. That's where all the meth heads and the hookers and everything are. And drove down there, nothing changed. It looked exactly like it did before COVID, so that it didn't affect their life one bit.
There's always some sort of slum, whatever you think about it, in some sort of state. So
yeah, unfortunately, I mean, whether it's the people that in those situations, they didn't have access to the information of what's going on or what, but yeah, it's what it is. So
I guess so. Actually, did you ever do drag racing on the strip during COVID? That's where I was at.
Yeah, that's where I did it. It was right on the strip. So I went from Mandalay Bay up to Tropicana until I got the red light, and then there was other people in front of us at that point. So
I would say it was a couple of years ago when I was actually in Vegas, and me and my parents would kind of weed through like all of those. We're not walking out like high 90-degree weather. So I mean, like, we're just weaving through all these casinos because they're all like somehow interconnected in some capacity.
yeah, it's interesting too because the Vegas Strip is a lot bigger than people think it is, and when they're walking, everything looks so close together because you look on the map, it's like, oh, it's just two buildings down. They don't realize that each of these buildings is almost a mile long. And, from Mandalay Bay to the Stratosphere, it's like 4.5 miles. But the Stratosphere always looks like it's just around the corner because it's so big and massive. It's pretty deceiving. But a lot of people figure that out quick. They check their watches after. It's like, oh my God, I did 17,000 steps yesterday. No wonder my legs are so sore.
I'll explain my leg cramp the one morning. Yeah. Oh, yeah. God, that hurts so bad.
Got to stay hydrated, and beer is not a hydrating agent. So just keep that in mind.
Sadly. And I'm trying to remember what else. Yeah, it was leg cramp. Actually, I was in New York. Got to ride that roller coaster. So, I mean, hey, I'm not complaining.
I wish I could fit in those things.
Really? Oh, man. I fit just fine. I mean, I got a big belly here, too. So.
Yeah, I'm 6'3" with long legs, and sometimes squeezing into these things, my femur is just too long. I can't get it into the seat sometimes.
That's unfortunate.
I want to see Iron Maiden at the Kia Forum.
I guess so. Right. But in all seriousness, good to see you are doing well there, mate. So I guess you got a family and everything. I guess you guys been okay.
Yeah, married, got a daughter, got a grandson. So life is good out here. I can't complain, really. My daughter's got a good job, and my grandson's doing well. So it's when it comes down to family, as long as everybody's doing well, you're a happy person. That's all you can really ask for.
Amen. So good job. So
thanks.
But I guess, have you played in like any shows, whether it was with Gravethorn or Achromatica and all the other bands? I guess, did you do any shows in and around Vegas?
Yeah, Achromatica, we played a few shows, and we did a battle of the bands out here, and it was probably our best show, with the exception of immediately after the show. Glenn, our guitar player, had some major health issues, and that kind of sidelined it. So what would have been the greatest show of our career has asterisks after it, unfortunately. But everybody says that. Everybody told me, man, you guys should have won. You guys should have won. Another band won. Whatever. We can't control what the judges think. But hey, the audience picked us, and even the guy who put the Battle of the Bands on, he picked us too. So, but then the following year, or maybe it was 2 years later, we did another Battle of the Bands. We won that one. Then we played the finals or the semifinals at the Viper Room in Hollywood, and I didn't particularly care for that venue, to be honest with you, and things went a little sideways there. But and we played other shows here in Vegas too. It was a good time. A lot of it's small bar shows and stuff. But the Battle of the Bands, we played at House of Blues, which was a big stage with the big sound system. That everything was very professional, and it was like, yeah, I could get used to this. Pretty mind blowing playing on the same stage that you saw some of your heroes play on, like Motorhead. And I'm a big blues guy, so I saw Buddy Guy play there, and I've seen just some great talent there before, and it was like, wow, I'm on that same stage. This is pretty incredible.
It's like an epiphany moment when you think about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Actually, the way Jason was kind of describing it, it seemed like pre-COVID, all the bands, they knew each other, so they were all trying to like help each other up, and it seemed like after COVID, everyone's trying to tear each other down, I guess. Have you seen something similar?
Jason had a very different experience than I had. So pre-COVID, and I don't remember too much of bands, specifically helping each other out or not helping each other out. I think it was just, let's try to put a show together, okay, and obviously friends are always sticking up for friends. That goes without saying. But I don't remember too much of the negativity after COVID. Although Jason, like I said, he has a different story than we do, because he left Achromatica to be in a different band, and from what I understand, his experience didn't go as planned or as hoped. So, and he was he's got a lot of negative emotions towards that situation. So, and then when he was about ready to come back to Achromatica, but that's right about when the band dissolved. So it just didn't work out. But Yeah, his experience is different than mine. Maybe because I wasn't in the music scene after COVID, I was just more or less like writing my own stuff at that point. Who knows? But I go to shows sometimes, and certainly looks like the scene's getting busier. There's more people showing up at shows, and this stuff always goes in waves. You'll have a real banging scene for a little while, and then you have a pretty anemic scene, and that's just what happens. And it happens everywhere. So it is what it is.
I guess so. And I guess while I'm thinking about it, I guess talk about the gear that you have. That kind of makes the magic happen here too. So I guess what you got.
Well, for starters, I have a guitar. Funny as it is, I bought it used. All I know is it's an Ibanez, and the neck goes through the body. It's an RG something, and I know Ibanez is really notorious for putting a bunch of numbers and stuff after their RG. I have no idea what it is because I bought it used, and there's no numbers on it or anything. It sort of stays in tune, and that's all I need. That's what I recorded both of the CDs with. A lot of my stuff is just, honestly, it's just pawn shop finds and Craigslist finds over the years. I got this Epiphone bass, single pickup. I got it for cheap at a pawn shop. That's what I used on the demo. It worked good. I run everything through a Mackie 24/8 board. I don't know if you can see it behind me there. And then that goes into an interface into my computer where I use the Reaper program for recording. And I just got a bunch of miscellaneous, EQs and compressors and things like that down there. I don't even know how to use them, to be honest with you. So I just, turn knobs until it sounds a little better, and that's about it. But Reaper is an excellent program. Like if you're just getting into recording and you don't really know what to do, I like it because the interface was laid out almost. If I had to imagine how to use an online recording software, it's pretty much exactly how I would do it. So it was very easy for me to learn on, and from what I understand, a lot of people have that same experience. Tons of online support. So if anybody's thinking of getting into the at-home recording thing, get yourself a good video game computer that has a lot of memory and all that stuff, and go with Reaper because it was so easy, and it's very affordable. It's not expensive at all, and easy peasy. Lots of YouTube videos and stuff like that to get to where you got to be. You'd be surprised. When I see some of the reviews of the CDs, and multiple times I've heard, and this sounds like it was professionally recorded. It's like, nope, that was my first time doing a CD on that one, and this new CD, that's my second time doing a CD. That is not professional at all. That's just some jackass in his spare bedroom, playing with dials.
He's being humble right now. So
seriously, I have no experience in schooling or any of that. It's just, I've been listening to metal long enough where I know what I would like things to sound like, and other people might not like the way I do it, and that's fine. Everybody has a different opinion, but I didn't want that super quantized, super clean sound that a lot of new metal has, because to me it's almost too synthetic. I like stuff that's a little more raw, a little more organic, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And I also like when metal was kind of scary, and it wasn't like a guy in an Abercrombie shirt on stage shredding and guitar. It's just, I liked it when you went to a metal show and you didn't know if afterwards the band was going to kick your ass in the parking lot, or kidnap you and sacrifice you, to an unholy god and burn you at a stake or something. That's where the excitement was. But maybe I'm showing my age here. I don't know.
Let's not go that far there, mate. Let's just at least try to have a good show. There's a way you're kind of describing like the production and everything too. They're gonna think like, "Damn, son, you thinking and shit." So that's pretty cool. I guess. Did you try experimenting with other DAWs before settling on Reaper?
No, that was I went online to like a home recording forum, and I just kind of looked up like what's a good first time user DAW, and a lot of people said Reaper. Some people said what's the other one? Some people mentioned Cubase, and some people mentioned what the hell's that big one that everybody uses? I can't think of it off the top of my head because I don't have it right in front of me. But I just went with Reaper, and I feel like I hit a home run with that one because it's perfect for me. And even if now that I have more knowledge, I don't think I would even consider going into another one because I'm so comfortable with it, and it does everything I want it to do, really.
You guys have like a separate vocal booth because it seems like it's both you and Bobby doing vocals.
No, that's just me doing all the vocals. I can do the lows and the highs, and I can harmonize and stuff on separate tracks. Bob's just drums, So right behind this wall right here is my master bedroom closet. And so I drill the hole in, I run the microphone and the cables through there, and that's where I do my vocals, because all the clothes that are hanging up in there act as sound dampeners, and it just worked out perfect. Don't get any unnecessary natural reverb or anything like that, and yeah, it worked out quite well. If the cable was long enough, I'd consider bringing it further into the shower, because that's where you get the best ones. But for right now, though, that it worked out quite well. It's just funny though, when I'm recording something, I have to hit the record button, run in there really quick to make sure I got it timed right, get on the microphone with the headphones, and okay, there it is. But sometimes I get in there too late and I miss it, so it's the challenge, I guess.
Do it again. So
Yeah, it gets my steps in, that's for sure.
there goes my exercise for the day.
Yeah.
So, actually, funny enough, I do like a little side project with a friend of mine at Texas, and this is my vocal booth over here in this nice little closet.
Okay.
So, no clothes or anything, too, but
Tell you, hang those clothes up, and you'll be surprised at how good of a insulation it is for sound.
actually, it's done a pretty good job. I mean, I don't know what sort of insulation's in it to kind of like maybe dampen it out, but
Yeah.
I would say a couple times I was trying to record, and unfortunately, it's like those hard plastic sort of stands you have right there. So unfortunately, after it was like digging in for a while, it started. It fell forward at the time. At the time, it was frustrating because I was like, oh fuck, that was so good. Why'd you have to fucking fall? So.
Oh yeah, the best performance you're ever going to do when you're recording, either you forgot to hit the record button, or something's always going to happen. It's Murphy's law.
Sadly, yeah. So let's see why. And actually, I wanted to ask because I was checking out your album, Atroticus. Is that how you pronounce it?
Atrocitus.
Atroticus. Okay. It looked like the last song you did a black metal version of Creeping Death. I guess was that in homage to the almighty Metallica. So.
Yep. Yeah. They were my band back in the '80s, and funny enough, my first car, I painted Creeping Death on the bumper, and I named the car Creeping Death. And I just always thought that was such a powerful song, and has that kick in the teeth with the epic feel about it at the same time. And, it's just like, yeah, this is a badass song. And then when I started messing around here, I was like, man, one of these days I'd like to do a Metallica cover. Which one would it be? And I was like, yeah, just Creeping Death. That was my favorite song back in the day. So I gave it a shot, and I mean, I'm happy with how it came out. There's a couple parts in there that's like, oh, this could have been done better, or that could have been done better. But overall, I'm not complaining about it. I was gonna do what song was it? I had started. Oh man, it was a Rainbow song that I was gonna do. It was a big one, and I started it. I was happy with how it was coming out, and then I was on a forum, and somebody else said, "Hey, check out our Rainbow cover," and it was like way better than anything I could have done. I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna scrap that one. But yeah, I was happy. It's gotten some pretty good reviews. It's gotten a lot of streams.
I was going to say maybe Stargazer.
Yes, that's what it was. I couldn't think of the name. I'm like in the yeah, Stargazer.
Yeah, rest in peace, Ronnie James Dio. We miss that brother every day.
Oh man, what a not even just what a voice, but what a force in the metal world. It's just like the term metal god gets tossed around more than it should. But if you had to have your gods of metal, he's definitely right up there. Or if there was a Mount Rushmore or something, he's got to be right up there for as far as vocalist goes. Anyway,
I'd say better have Rob Halford on there too. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, how can you ignore that? I just I wouldn't even limit it to okay, there can only be a certain amount. There's so many great ones. I mean, who doesn't get enough credit is I don't know his name off the top of my head, but the singer of Halloween. I mean, he's got an incredible voice. And then of course you got Bruce Dickinson, and there's just so much. And even a lot of people say Ozzy doesn't have the best voice, but his delivery is impeccable, and it's just what he does with his voice and how deliberate he is awesome. And it's just. And it's always fun to discover somebody new as well,
That's for sure. He wants to actually do one more show in Birmingham with both his original and also with Black Sabbath.
More power to him. I hope it goes off well, because without Sabbath, none of us would be having this. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And there's just the metal landscape would look a lot different. And I'm sure there's the there's the debate of whether Sabbath actually invented metal or not, because there's always going to be somebody that says no, because this guy did this guy did that. But all that aside, metal would sound very different if there was no Sabbath. And to me, that's just a legendary thing. And and people I've already been seeing about, oh, what a ripoff that's going to be on tickets. Ozzy's not in his prime, and neither. It's like it's a historical moment. Like, what is the problem here? So more power to them. Plus, who do they got? Metallica, they got Pantera, they got Anthrax, and then you got all these other bands that are playing. Like, that's worth it. Like, what? I don't get it. I just don't get it. But some people will just complain about anything. You could hand them anything on a platter, and some of these metalheads will say, "Well, I was into this platter before anybody else."
We saw Ozzy in his prime right there when he was probably high on something. So
first time I saw Ozzy was on the Ultimate Sin tour, and man, what a show! That was I think that was my first metal concert I ever went to, and that helped forge me into this direction. And it was such an amazing show. Back at the time, the fans were amazing, and those positive experiences help mold you into who you are and influence things for the future. And you're always going to remember those great times. And it was just incredible. I can't say enough about how I wish those guys the best of luck on this show, because they all deserve it, every single one of them, and all the opening bands too. First mosh pit I ever went into was at an Anthrax show, so to see them on that show, it's like, yeah, perfect.
Oh, God, a mosh.
So. Yeah. Well, actually, technically it was Exodus, because they were one of the openers. So it was Exodus that I first went into the pit, but Anthrax was the headlining bands, and then but yeah, that's cool shit, man.
I think the thing I feel really bad for is I've been seeing some articles. They're saying he can't walk anymore.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. He just had surgery within the past 2 years or something. And I know sometimes these back surgeries, they don't go well, and speaking for myself, I've had spinal issues for the better part of the last 35 years. And every time I talk to somebody, because, being a tattoo artist, I talk to different people every day. Every time I tattoo somebody that had some sort of a surgery similar to the one that I will eventually need, they all say, don't do it. And my back was worse, or it didn't change, or it's like, I'm holding out as long as I can. So, but if he still can sing, which, according to Sharon, he's still got the pipes for it. So that's all that matters. I think the fans are going to just appreciate it no matter what. And let's face it, it's Black Sabbath. I mean, I'm sure they have all kinds of cool ideas about how they can prop up a big throne or something for him to do his performance from, so I think he'll be all right.
Something like those Egyptian sort of things. Everyone's carrying him out.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool? You got to wonder too. Do bands like Anthrax and Pantera and Metallica, the opening bands, they're opening for the last Sabbath show ever? Do they almost feel like pallbearers? Like this is the last one, and we're helping deliver it. That'd be cool.
That'd be an interesting concept. That'd be a concept, yeah.
Imagine seeing Hetfield and Scott Ian and Zach and stuff carrying Ozzy. That'd be great, man.
I don't know how tall everyone is. I just don't want to think it's like a major height difference. Everyone's like, it's slightly tilted forward.
Yeah, well, we'll keep Lars out of it. So
I guess so.
Shortest one.
All right, but it'd be nice to see. It would be nice actually to get out there, but I can't really make time for it. I don't know how much Ticketmaster's asking for those ticket prices. That's probably like just $1,000 just to get to general admission.
No, I just saw the ticket prices recently, and from what I understand, there are $1,000 tickets, but that's like the top tier gold package. And I think it's like a private sitting area and all this, but I want to say they're starting at like $450, which to me, for that show, super reasonable. Why not? I mean, it's just, from here, you gotta pay for the plane fare and the lodging and all that. So that's where your real expenses are going to come in. But if I lived in England and I had the money, absolutely, I would not even hesitate to try to get in on that. You just got to hope that the first bunch of tickets aren't going to corporations first, that they can, farm out to their friends as favors. Let the fans be the first to buy it. That's all I can say.
The true metalheads.
The true metalheads, yeah.
That's for sure. All right. Well, so it happens. Actually, I hope they live stream it. That'd be interesting. So
I think it'd be, I'm almost thinking like it'd be cool if Netflix aired it. I mean, they're doing so much now with WWE and stuff like that. Why not?
I was trying to think of like I don't know, WWE or something like maybe heavy metal channel or something like that. Maybe that's what they do or something.
Netflix had their own version of Headbangers Ball, a weekly episode. Come on, Netflix, you're listening to this.
I was gonna say bring back Headbangers Ball. How about that? We just do that instead. So
We could do that. Would MTV be interested in doing music anymore? I don't know.
I sure hope to God they would. I mean, this is a money maker, brother. Come on.
Hey,
So,
like I said, if a bigger platform like Netflix or one of the other ones, if they just announce that they're doing their own, I think they could be very successful with it, especially now, because ever since the 80s or the 90s, I think was the last time Headbangers Ball was on. There's so many more genres of metal now that have specific amounts of fans all by themselves. So if you had a Headbangers Ball type of show, I think you'd get a lot more viewers than MTV ever got in the past, especially if it's worldwide.
I think my problem with MTV, it wasn't so much like the music. It was actually more like the Jackass and that sort of stuff that came around in like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And Viva La Bam afterwards there too. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Those. Yeah. I feel your pain. I used to love watching it. I'd get home from school. My neighborhood was late to getting cable TV, and we finally got it. I was hooked on MTV right off the bat, and it was just cool when it was just music videos. That's all it was. And then they brought this show in and that show, and then pretty soon it was like, when do I watch the music videos? And then there was no music videos, and it's a shame because that was a big culture at the time. But now I guess it's all YouTube. But I think somebody should make a show out of it. They could do it.
that's a mini series. Yeah, that we could do that. So I think the problem with Netflix was I think when they were doing like the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, it was like having so many problems just trying to connect and all that stuff there too. So people were pretty pissed about that.
Yeah, but now like they're doing WWE Raw, which is live every Monday night, and I haven't seen any problem at all. I'm a sucker for pro wrestling. I've been watching it for decades, but yeah, I think they kind of got that figured out.
All right. All more power to them, I guess. So we'll see what happens. So fingers crossed. Oops, sorry. Fingers crossed. But gotta love Ozzy. That guy stuck to his guns, even though he was a stupid son of a bitch. So
Much like Lemmy from Motorhead, he stayed true to who he is, and those are the heroes to admire, whether you're into hard rock and heavy metal or not. They stay true to who they are, and neither one of them are jerks. They always come off great in interviews. They don't have. The only scandals Ozzy ever had attached to him really was the things he was accused of doing, and half of it wasn't even true anyway. So
I should bite the head off the bat. That's why I was kind of referencing that.
thought it was fake.
I remember the bat was like very salty. That's what he said in one of his interviews.
Well, he wouldn't have known it was salty beforehand.
I mean, I do say American food's pretty salty from what people tell me. So
So,
all right, we'll see what happens. I guess getting back into Gravethorn here, I guess.
sure.
Your recent material, and I guess the stuff you released in the past under Gravethorn, I guess. So what do your lyrics normally talk about? You try to.
A lot of it's pretty similar. It's the whole mindset of just overcoming any sort of oppression, and it could be applied to anything. Some people they feel oppressed with politics, or some people they feel oppressed with religion, or what have you. And it's mainly about overcoming oppression in that sense. Some of them may be a little more religious based. I used to enjoy hearing about or reading about like when just certain pagan societies or just heathens and stuff like that. It was this whole like, you need to conform to Christianity or else we're going to kill you. And it's wrong. So it's a lot of fantasy story writing in my head about these pagan societies uniting with one another, whether it was Vikings or Saxons or not Saxons, but Native Americans or Africans. What if they all got together and basically gave the middle finger and said, okay, now it's game on? Could you imagine how different history would have been if that happened? Granted, it's a little easier to do now than back then, but just the whole process of like I said, swear your allegiance to our God or we're going to kill you, and it's just it's very angering. There's a lot of great things that came from those societies, books and things like that got eliminated because they didn't want that going forward in the future. And it's like, geez, there's a lot of information that could have been valuable right now. And I'm also of just if people are different from you, just leave them alone. Who cares? Don't bother them. It's kind of the libertarian in me, I guess. But just leave people alone. We have this problem in America, and I do think it's somewhat Christian based, where if people are different from you, then you must destroy it. And it's like, stop. Just there's nothing wrong with people living amongst each other as long as there's a mutual respect.
That'd be the evangelicals. So, but you are right there too. I would say, well, that explains the church burnings. So, especially, was it Mayhem that did that one? It was called Ashes, and that was Mayhem.
It might have been Burtsum.
Burtsum. No, you're right. Okay, yeah, that's right. I
Yeah.
think that was after Mayhem. I think Varg, he had been arrested, but he was still able to do music from his prison cell or something like that.
Well, geez, it's an interesting prison system they have over there. You can kill somebody and get out in 20 years and still write music from your jail cell. And, plus he tried escaping a couple of times, and I don't think they added time onto his sentence. So, but he's out now. But yeah, I mean, pretty interesting character, to say the least. But yeah, he was directly involved in the church burnings, and a couple other guys I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, so there was that period, about 2-year period, where there was a lot going on over there.
That's for sure. Actually, he was responsible for killing Euronymous from Mayhem, right?
Yeah. He killed Euronymous, and did a pretty small amount of time for it. The drummer of Emperor killed a guy at a park, and there was a couple other killings that were going on at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they didn't get as publicized, but yeah, kind of nuts. I had a friend of mine that was keeping me up to date on that, because obviously that was before the internet. But a friend of mine had a magazine called Bloodshed Magazine way back in the day, and he would tell me, oh, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And oh man, Euronymous got killed last month. It was just crazy.
It's like, no. So,
well, at the time, I wasn't like, I wasn't really huge into Mayhem or anything, because I was still trying to figure out, I didn't know that Death Crush CD that I liked was Mayhem. And I think he got killed before De Mysterious came out in the States, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then when I heard De Mysterious, I'm like, oh, this is great. Too bad that guy's not here anymore, But I'd also heard rumors, and again, they're just rumors, but I had heard that he was kind of getting out of metal because he was so pissed off with how commercialized it had gotten. And he just wanted extreme metal to be just for the underground extreme metal people, and that's it. And when it started spreading out, I seem to remember an interview where he was pissed off about American death metal guys, in band photos, and they're wearing basketball sneakers and something like that. He was pretty upset about that. But yeah, it's just I guess who's to say if there wouldn't have been a Mayhem with Euronymous going forward if those rumors are true. So, but like I said, they're just rumors.
I guess. But I guess this is a black metal band. I guess any other bands. Did you ever do makeup, do a little corpse paint and everything back in the day?
Eternity Denied, I did that in the mid '90s thing, and there was a couple of early Gravethorn pictures where I put it on just for the picture. And it's funny because every now and then I'll just be on the web and I'll see a picture of me. It's like, that was one picture, and but, it was whatever. It was pretty cool. But now I wouldn't do it now because when you think about it, corpse paint, to make you look old and decrepit and dead and stuff like that. It's like I'm already looking like that as it is now. So why would I even bother doing it? It's like I could get it in the right lighting and look more horrific than some of these guys doing it. So
I say you got some competition with Chris Barnes the way he's looking these days. Do you see what he looked like?
I did see that the last picture of him. I didn't recognize him, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's we're all showing our age. I mean, it's just part of life, I mean, I don't look like I did, back when Eaten Back to Life came out either. So
I'll say the beard kind of makes you look a little bit older too. So I mean, he looked like he was someone who should have been going to a retirement home next.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm not quite there yet. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to be 55 this year, so it's it is what it is. My mother's father went white, completely white, by the time he was in his mid-20s. So at least he has hair. I lost mine a long time ago. So
I was going to blame the weed next, since he's pretty much a big proponent of it. So
yeah, I don't know if weed can do that to somebody or not. I'd be interested to hear that.
I'm just blaming something, but I'm not an expert on it, so I'm just blaming on something.
Yeah, point fingers. Maybe it's getting kicked out of band syndrome. Maybe that'll do it too.
I guess, but Godspeed to the guy. He's still going strong there too. Saw him with Nile. So yeah.
Yeah, Nile's an incredible band. I think they're coming around here in a couple of months, so I'm looking forward to that. What a great band.
I just think a minor fist bump from Carl. I say minor because it seemed like he was kind of losing his grip right there. I was like, damn it, I really wanted to get it, but I touched his hand. That's all that matters. I touched his hand.
Yeah. They're one of the bands that, I when death metal first came, that first wave in America, when you had, everybody was signed on to RC Records, and you had Deicide and Sepultura and Immolation, Suffocation. Then in Europe, you had Entombed, Unleashed, Dismember, and all those types of bands coming out. And I was really into death metal, and then it started kind of all getting a little monotonous. It was like, all right, everybody's just kind of not sounding much different. And there's this competition for who can do the deeper vocals instead of who can make a good record. And so I got into, black metal, and I was really like, I'm really feeling this. But Nile is probably the band, when I first heard them, I was like, oh my God, this is inspiring. This is like, okay, I can see this evolution of death metal happening. And then after Nile, I started hearing like Origin and Dying Fetus and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, so Nile was a really good gateway for me to come back, because they're so different sounding. It wasn't just the same chug pattern and the same deep growl. Not that I don't appreciate those things, but you don't have to. There shouldn't be a blueprint or a template for it.
I guess, would you say it's kind of maybe sort of a challenge for you whenever you're trying to create music? Or I guess, what other challenges do you face these days?
Oh, man. Well, creating music, I mean, sometimes I'll just, sometimes I hear stuff in my head and it's like, oh, I got to get that. I got to capture that. So if I'm home, it's like, great, fire up everything and just record it and, just keep playing it over and over again, see what comes off of it or see what might work before it and stuff like that. But it's frustrating when I'm not at home and I have this like really great riff in my head. I'm like, oh man, I hope I remember that. I hope I remember that. I'm never going to remember it. And sometimes I'll just grab my phone and put it on video and, okay, it goes, and then when I hear it on the phone, it's like, that doesn't sound like that at all. That just sounds stupid. So, but yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges of music though, is there's no surefire way to get yourself marketed properly online. There's all these rumors of, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. But I think, because the internet is always changing and the algorithms are always changing and everything's always changing, by the time simple people like me get this information, it's already obsolete. I think certain people have a grasp on it when it's first available and they secretly use it for a while. I mean, there's some bands, like I can't figure it out. It's like they just started, they released something 2 weeks ago, and it's their first band, and they have like 300,000 streams. It's like, come on, man. And, I remember one time on my last CD, this guy said, I can get you a bunch of streams. And I specifically said to him, like, if it's streams, cool, if it's organic, but if it's bots, I don't want anything to do with it. And he swore to me, no, it's organic and it's real people. And we know the right curators and stuff like that. I went with it. And then sure enough, I got flagged by Spotify because it was bots. So I never did it again. And, I just don't know how these other people are doing it. They know something that the average person doesn't, or somebody that they're working with knows something. And I wish that information was more readily available to everybody. And I think that's a huge challenge right now for the modern musician, when streaming is the main way to get your music out there. You're not going to make any money off of it. Don't expect to, but there should be some kind of information that's available while it's still relevant, like how to get your music heard by more people. I don't think that's too much to ask. And if they want to take the steps to do it, great. And if they don't want to take the steps to do it, great. But make the playing field fair. You know what I mean?
That would be nice. But I had to ask, was it pretty much a guy from out of India or some sort of Asian country that was trying to promise you those streams?
No, it was some dude in I think it was St. Louis or something. Because I did look him up, and it was in this country. It was domestic, but I mean he probably had all the people listening were probably farmed out to all these countries, kind of like the old stuff envelopes scam back in the 90s. It's probably very similar, like get paid to listen to music, or get paid to say you listen to music or something. Uh, I think I saw something recently, and it might have been in Vietnam or something, where they had like this wall with like 500 cell phones all wired together, and then this one thing would play a song, and it looked like they were all playing the song. So like that's how they were getting the stream numbers.
I'd say it's almost like a scene out of Homeland too, where they find like all these people.
Yeah.
I think it was based in Russia, but it was like these people, they're just average people, but they're just sending out all these messages because that's what they're paid to do.
Right, right.
It's fucked up, man. No, man.
Yeah, no, I'm not adapting too well to this new digital world, to be honest with you. It's moving very fast. By the time I think I have something figured out, it's like, oh no, that's very 2018 thinking. It's the same thing for when I'm marketing myself for tattoos. Back in the day, did a good tattoo, you handed your business card out, and that's all you need to do. And if you got published in a magazine, even better. That meant you were one of the upper level guys. But now it's just like, who knows how to figure this out, with the exception of a few internet marketing companies that can charge you an arm and a leg to do it for you.
I guess. But I guess it can also die with like the whole thing with social media and AI these days. So I know I talked earlier that there was like the whole push of a button deal, and I know it's going to probably tick you off, but let's go and jump into it. So I guess, what do you make of it these days?
As far as AI goes, I mean, it's not going anywhere, and I'm of the embrace it with integrity kind of thing. I wouldn't want AI to write my songs for me and then claim I wrote these songs. I would never do anything like that. But I'll be honest with you, I've used AI for the artwork before. I don't have a problem with it, and I don't see the problem with it. I got into an argument with somebody online, which I need to stop arguing with people online. This one guy in this band from I think he's from Norway, and he was saying it's just lazy to use AI to do your album cover work. And so really quick, I looked at his band, and I'm like, oh, let's see what his album cover looks like. Oh, guess what? He went outside and took a picture of a pine tree in a snowstorm with his phone and made it black and white, like 7 million other black metal bands did. So don't sit here and call somebody else lazy for using AI for their album cover when all you did was the same thing everybody else already did. You didn't even put any thought into it. You just said, that's what I'm going to do because that's what everybody does. And for the record, I was a beta tester for one of the AI companies. So when I did the first album, I made an image. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I changed a lot of it in Procreate, which is a digital it's a digital program for the iPad. So I made a lot of changes, and I did a lot of things separately. I didn't just use the AI image that was generated in 5 seconds. So I did do some work on it, and probably more than the average guy who takes a picture of his pine tree on his cell phone. I don't see the problem with it. But I would never say like for that, if people say, who did the album cover? It's like, I'm very open about it. I did it in AI and I made some changes to it. I would never say, oh yeah, I painted that, because obviously I didn't. Just like people wouldn't say, yeah, just like people shouldn't use AI to do to write their songs and then they play it and say they wrote it. I'm hearing different things about using AI as far as mixing and mastering. Just for the heck of it, I did try it once. I was like, okay, let's see what AI can do for a mix. I thought it sounded like ass. I was like, this is awful. This is ridiculous. So I just continued doing it the way I did it. But if you see something you like, and it's visually appealing to you, and all this talk about, well, the other artists don't, that originally came up with it don't get paid. It's like other artists didn't originally come up with it. It's little bits and pieces of millions of other things. So even if you had somebody paint something, guess what? They didn't come out of the womb painting masterpieces. They had to absorb little bits and pieces and copy other people's information, mentally on how to do it. And there's a lot of bands that they can't afford to spend $5,000 on an album for rights to a piece of art, So it's AI is very. I welcome AI in the sense of album cover art. Am I going to have them write it? Nope. I think that's that's BS. Like, you can't have AI write a song for you and then take credit for it.
That's true. Actually, the reason I brought it up too, I think it was because Deicide's that newest album they came out with, Banished by Sin, and then I think it was also Pestilence. They got some heat because they were using AI for like their cover work there too. So
I thought I read somewhere though that Deicide's album cover. I thought they had somebody make it, and they used they used computer programs to make it. They didn't use a paintbrush. But I could be wrong, but I thought I read somewhere that there was an artist that actually did the artwork for them. And Pestilence, I know they have a similar opinion as I do. Like, nobody's losing money by using AI to do the artwork. All these people that are saying, what about all these other artists? Okay, let me ask you this: are you using a keyboard for the symphony sounds on your music? What about the symphony you should have hired? Now they're losing money. It's really similar when you think about it.
well, that would become Demu Burger afterwards. So I mean, so let's see what. I mean, I didn't really mind either way too, but I just say like the newest Deicide album, it's still Glenn Bennett, but with like a serpentine look, almost like Medusa. So yeah,
it sounds amazing though.
it is true. I heard like a couple of songs that was From Unknown Heights You Shall Fall, and then The Sever the Tongue. I think it was like the two that were like playing on the radio.
Honestly, I thought it sounded like the old Deicide, like the Legion era of Deicide. I thought it had that vibe to it. Obviously with better recording quality because there's a lot better stuff out now to do it. But I was really psyched about it. I got a little burnt out of Deicide after I think it was Once Upon the Cross. I was just like, it's cool, but it wasn't grabbing me the way their old stuff did. And then when I heard this one, I was like, whoa, this is the Deicide I love.
I'd say mine kind of stopped after Stench of Redemption. It was like, oh, that's it. That's all I needed. It was just Stench of Redemption. That's all. So
I think the last one I really liked was Serpents of the Light, and I forget which order that comes in when it comes to that or Once Upon the Cross, but that was the last one I really liked. And then there was a few that, not that I didn't like it, but it was just like it wasn't grabbing me, like I said. But this new one, yeah, it's like Deicide's back.
Actually, I think it was the self-titled one was the very first one, then Legion, Once Upon the Cross, then Serpents. That was the fourth one they did.
So then Serpents of the Light was probably the last one I liked, and then there was a few that I was just not totally into, but then the new one got me back in.
Well, I think it was like two more. I think it was Incinerate Him. That's what it was. Incinerate Him was one, and then there was In Torment in Hell, and then they did Scars afterwards. So
yeah. Still excellent band. Still kicking down doors and stuff. You gotta give a lot of respect to Deicide. And I know a lot of the young metalheads when they hear something that is hyped up as like a legendary band, and they hear it for the first time, they might not be so impressed by it because they've already heard other stuff that's either faster or heavier and stuff like that. But it's like, but if there was no Deicide, you wouldn't have that. And a lot of them don't understand that, which is mind blowing to me.
We had more like the thrash because of the Hoffman Brothers style of play with like the thrashy style during those years, and then it was like the black and death metal that came from like Stench of Redemption and onwards. So
sure.
That's what I'd say. That's still going strong. Like we said, you gotta respect that son of a bitch though. He stuck to his guns. So
another good example of just stay true to himself. Gotta respect it.
I do have to admit, I was a little surprised he did the Satan Spawn Kako Demon live the one time because I thought he was moving away from the whole Hoffman era, except for like maybe a couple that was like the big hits.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what his feelings are. Maybe if he wrote a certain amount of it, so he felt like he had the right to play it. I don't know how the inner workings of all that work, but I say if it's your band and it's all part of your catalog, why not?
I guess. I'll keep judging on good soldiers. All right. Okay. So, Chris, we produced your questions here pretty good. So, let's jump into some fun ones. Ready?
All right.
So, let's see. This ought to be interesting, too. So, maybe there's a particular Vegas dish I haven't heard about. But what would you say is currently your favorite food?
I'm a steak guy, to be honest with you. So, it's I know it sounds boring, but a good steak. A very well made steak. There's a restaurant here called Morton's, and they have them all over the country. I guess they probably have one of the best steaks I ever had when it's done right. Just medium rare. get enough blood coming out of it to, make it nice and tasty. But I'm also a fan of Chicago style pizza. There's a place in Chicago called Gino's East that has probably the best pizza I've ever had in my entire life. They use cornmeal in the crust, so it gives a certain sweetness, and it's out of this world, man. So, steak and Chicago pizza.
So it's like walking into the house of the pizza god, we wanted to say. So actually, which sort of steaks are you into? Is it the fillets, strips, ribeyes?
New York.
New York strips.
Yep.
That's a choice. I don't mind ribeyes, but they're just too chewy. I don't like steaks when they're chewy.
Yeah, the flavor's there, but the feeling of all that extra fat in my mouth, I don't particularly care for. I like more of the meatier cuts, but something that I'm not going to break my jaw on either.
Actually, my dad really wants to do the tomahawk steaks. So
yeah, me and my wife have been talking about that, but I mean, we're looking at it realistically. It's like we're gonna need a few other people here. Those things are massive.
Actually, they were like $200 when we stopped at like Saratoga Springs the one time. This one restaurant.
Are you in upstate New York?
No, I'm in Pittsburgh, PA. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
I will say I love Saratoga Springs, but we walked to that restaurant the one time. First off, I was pissed because I got raviolis. They only gave me like these small little like 10 something beds. I'm like, I need some real food, man. So my dad got, I think it was a Delmonico. I think that was even like $130. But like I saw the tomahawks, it was like $210. So
yeah, bring your appetite and bring a milk crate for the leftovers on those.
I guess so. But I'm interested to see, but I think we'll have to wait till summertime. So here's open. All right. So for the next one here, not too sure if you're real big into TV or anything, but I guess what would you say is your favorite movie or favorite TV series if you want to share one?
TV series, without a doubt, Seinfeld. Above and beyond. I'm on my fifth binge of the whole season on Netflix. As far as movies, I like a lot of the old mob movies. Goodfellas is probably my favorite. I like Bronx Tale, Casino. All the Scorsese stuff is good. But I also, being a kid of the '80s, Back to the Future I could watch over and over again. But then there's also some good stuff. I like a lot of the Tarantino stuff. Pulp Fiction and some of those obvious ones. The Coen brothers have some really cool stuff too. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there. I'm probably not the typical metalhead who's going to name all these rare horror movies and stuff like that. I can watch them, but they don't really do as much for me as they do for other people. It's just like, that was cool. That special effect was cool, but I'll watch No Country for Old Men 100 times in a row and be cool with that. So.
I thought The Exorcist would have been perfect for black metal groups, to be honest. So
yeah. I mean, I saw The Exorcist when I was young, and it was all right. I just I also have a attention span of a dust mite too, so that's not doing me any favors either.
I'd say my horror was more the dinosaur stuff because that was when Jurassic Park was coming out. Because I'm a '90s kid, but
yeah,
that was when Jurassic Park came out too. And I also got into on PlayStation 1. There was a game called Dino Crisis. It was what an uncle of mine was playing. I was watching too. Like, this is some intense shit here, man. So,
well, I mean, for the time, Jurassic Park did a hell of a job with the special effects and stuff too, where you didn't know if you were watching a movie or a documentary. So it was pretty. Yeah, I could imagine for a kid to watch that, I'd be like, holy crap,
Yeah. So I would say nowadays they got to stop beating a dead horse, if you know what I mean. So.
Yep, it's kind of like the Fast and the Furious. Not that I was ever a fan of that movie, but it seems like every time I turn around, there's another one. The Fast and the Furious 7, the Fast and the Furious 32. So come on, man. Just crash your cars and be over with it.
Well, technically, that happened to the one guy, the Paul Walker, who tragically passed. But so actually, we did the Heaven edition next. Now we're doing Fast and Furious in Heaven. How about that? So.
Fast and the Furious Afterlife. This time it's personal.
Yes. To hell and back. How about that? There we go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
All right. I should know we bring in the Ghost Rider afterwards there too. So starring Nicolas Cage. So
yeah.
All right. A great choice there nonetheless. All right, so our next one right here, what would you say is your favorite alcoholic drink? And what's your favorite non-alcoholic?
Well, I haven't had a drink since September 6th of 2009. So thanks. I went into the hospital. My skin was all yellow, and my eyes were yellow, and I was at the beginning stages of liver cancer or liver failure. So caught it just in time, and they said, "We think you got enough healthy cells where this will turn around on its own, but you gotta stop with this nonsense right now. There's no more just one more drink. This is it." And it's like, okay, and got through. And unfortunately, I know somebody that same exact situation many years later, but they had that one drink, and sure enough, they had a seizure and died on their living room floor, puking out blood. And that puts a lot into perspective of just how close I was. So no more drinking for me. I used to love imported beers, and probably not Hackershore. Spaten was my favorite beer from Germany, and I used to do all the Oktoberfests and all that, and me and my friends, we used to drink a lot of craft beers before it was even really a thing. It was just, microbrews, had a little of this here every now and then. And then I got into, we would do, I had a bar in my house when I lived in Massachusetts. So everybody come over and bring a bottle of vodka, and we call it a vodka tasting, and we just, get shit housed. Then the same thing with whiskey, same thing with rum. I was on a pretty good whiskey kick for a while, probably that last year before I had to quit. So I was drinking a lot of Evan Williams. No, not Evan Williams. I'm sorry. Woodford Reserve. That was a pretty big one. Knob Creek. But there's something about Crown Royal. It just went down so good. And me and my friends, everybody was on these kicks of Red Bull and vodka. And I tried the Red Bull and vodka. It was all right. And then I tried Red Bull with grape vodka, and that was delicious. It tasted like Flintstone vitamins. So you could drink a lot of those in a night. But me and my friends decided to change it up a little bit, and we went with Crown Royal and Monster. And let me tell you, we named it the Royal Bastard, and those things, they were delicious. They made each other taste even better. It was insane. And we would drink, every night we would drink like a handle of Crown Royal with a bunch of Monster, and you're getting so wrecked, but all that energy's just got you dialed in so you can drive home. Now I don't recommend this, kids, but holy crap, it was a wonderful and horrifying experience at the same time. But as far as non-alcoholic goes, I mean, I just drink a lot of water and coffee, to be honest with you. I don't drink much else. When you have liver problems, you kind of start being a little extra conscious of what you're consuming after that. So a lot of coffee. I've become almost a coffee snob. So a good Guatemalan coffee, or there's some great ones out there, to be honest with you. But yeah, and some good water. I call myself the most boring guy in Vegas. So
I mean, don't feel left out. A lot of people would say water, to be honest, and a good amount of people at least limit or at least don't drink as much as they used to. So
yeah. I've heard studies show like this generation of kids that are in their early 20s, they're just not going to bars nearly the way we used to. But I guess with weed getting legalized everywhere too, that helps. So
I guess so. It's almost like we're going to be entering a prohibition phase, part 2, we should say, because we did prohibit beer way back in the day. So,
yeah, 2.0 pro.
I guess so. Actually, I would say when I was in college, I was seeing people like just destroying these Bud Light 30 packs, to be honest, there too. So.
Oh yeah, I remember the first time. First time I drank 44 beers in one night because I had this big, huge, this glass mug from Germany that you could fit 3 beers in. So I drank like almost 15 of those at a keg party. And my friend had the same type of mug, and he was doing the same thing. And then we decided to take my car and drive it around, and blew the engine in the car. And he learned how to drive that night. We outran the cops and just did all this crazy shit. And, it was funny. I tell him get in the left lane. He crosses over the median and gets into the far left lane. I'm like, so we're driving in oncoming traffic. I'm like, no. And I think that's how we lost the cops, though. So that actually worked out pretty good. But yeah, good times.
Well, did you ever ask the question, how am I still alive these days? So
back then, none of us thought we were going to make it past 30, so we lived recklessly anyway. And it's a common story now, but now that we're, well past our 40s, and in my case, my 50s, you're feeling all those aches and pains that are catching up to you from all the stupid things you used to do way back when.
Like I said, I was playing Aussie there too, so.
Yeah.
Actually,
at least I didn't snort ants.
Actually, no, I think that was Motley Crue that was doing that. So
were they the ones doing it? I thought they accused him of doing it. Maybe there's a whole lot of finger pointing going on.
I guess, but I guess there was a Motley Crue movie, documentary. I'm not too sure, but they mentioned it was like piss and ants. To be honest with you, I'm not too sure if that's what it was. So
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a metalhead, but I'm glad I didn't take on that rock and roll lifestyle. There's a lot of interesting things I ingested back then. So, but me and my friends used to joke though. We would say we could have hung with any of them back in the day, with the amount we were drinking. And not bragging or anything, but I did have a very high tolerance to alcohol, which probably eventually led to my health problems later on. But I was always the guy that was the designated driver, even though I was drinking all night because I could drive the best. I had the sense to just, okay, put it on cruise control at the speed limit and just focus on steering. It's all, but I always did pretty good. I was never really belligerent or anything like that. I was told by a lot of people I was the fun, happy drunk. So I never really thought I had a problem. You see these other guys, they're either crying or they're, telling you how much they love you and they have to tell you, 2 inches from your face. I was never that guy. So I thought, oh yeah, no, I'm okay. I'm not like that guy.
what was that with the skin turning? Was that like cirrhosis or something?
Well, it was just a failing liver. It wasn't quite cirrhosis, but I guess I still have the potential to develop it later in life because of the damage I previously did. But so far so good. We're going on was it 09? So yeah, I'm over 15 years sober and everything's been great. And the weird thing was, I used to me being into classic cars, I always wanted a classic car. And once I quit drinking, I was able to buy classic cars because I had, newfound wealth apparently. Of course, the guys who had the liquor stores that I used to buy from, they had to sell their boats and stuff like that when I stopped going. But anyway, it's just I used to get stage fright when I go on stage, so I drink a lot to reduce that. And now that I don't drink anymore, I was just like, how am I going to handle that stage fright? And the stage fright is not nearly as bad. And also, when I did quit drinking, I lost over 100 pounds. Of course, I've gained some of it back. Don't get me wrong. At first, your hormones are in kind of a turmoil and they don't know what to do with everything. So all this crazy stuff's happening. But I gained some of the weight back, but still doing all right. But just it's crazy how much everything changes when you quit something like that, and it's always for the better too.
That's for sure. Yeah, good to have you around here, mate. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks.
So, stories. And if I last the fun questions here, this is one I put you on the spot, but let's see what you got. People, I even asked this one for Jason. He struggled with it too. But all right. So, what is currently your favorite song from the mainstream world? And I guess if you want to list one from the independent community, go ahead.
I never have a favorite song or I never have a favorite band because there's always something else out there that's going to get me. But as far as mainstream, like as far as the song today in my head, I had is Typo Negative considered mainstream or are they still kind of underground?
I mean, I would consider them mainstream because I thought they were signed to a label, and then I guess they put out a few albums before Peter Steele.
Yeah, so they have a song off of their first one called Gravitational Constant that I had in my head all day today. So I like that one. As far as underground stuff goes, I mean, let's just say Opus Satana from Emperor is right up there for me. Same thing with They Rode On by Watain. I mean, it's a great like mellow song, but also The End by The Doors. It's just there's all kinds of cool stuff out there, Barafaro by Gogo Bordello is another great fun song. It depends on the mood. Different moods can dictate what your favorite song is at that moment. And because I'm such a scatterbrain, that can all change from hourly even.
No, for this 1 hour only, we got him to at least mention Typo Negative and all those other ones. So, okay. Was there any other ones, or is that all of them?
That's all I can think of off the top of my head, to be honest with you. And then I'll probably text you tonight and be like, oh, and this song. And tomorrow I'll text you, oh, and this song.
All right. Yeah, there's a lot of things people forget to actually mention there too. It's like, oh shit, I meant to bring that up in the interview. Damn it. So
it's how life works.
Tragically, but good choices there nonetheless. All right. So Chris, we're down to one more question in my podcast right here, but I guess before we jump into it, do you have any questions for me, or any final words you want to say before we jump into it?
Just and to all the metalheads out there, keep it heavy, and I hope a lot of the music of Gravethorn is written specifically, like I said earlier, metal got me through a lot of hard times. So if people are having hard times and they just need something to help them get through the other side, I hope Gravethorn's music does it for them. And I just want our music to be in the hands of as many people that want to hear it. I'm not looking to, you're not going to get rich playing black metal or black and death metal, unless your name's Nergal or something like that. But, just keep it heavy. I hope you enjoy what you hear, and keep our country's going through a lot of changes right now, and I just hope people can keep a level head about things that are happening, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on. Don't get too wrapped up in it, because at the end of the day, some things are going to change, but a lot that everybody's scared of is going to change, probably not going to change at all. So.
Be afraid about nothing, as we would say. So.
Yeah, don't fall for the tactics.
They've been nice. Unfortunately, we find some people end up still falling for it. So
yeah.
tragically. All right. But there's something else here too. Here's how the last question goes. So, given what COVID has done, especially what you told me, like what was going on, like the last 30 or some years of your life there too, it seemed like you really been through a lot, and it seems like came out better and stronger, and made Grateful and all that stuff. Even interacted with Jason, had some fun there too. But for those musicians and people who perhaps are struggling dealing with like something similar you went through, like alcoholism, depression, maybe even stuff that COVID had kind of impacted there too, what sort of message of hope can you give to those musicians and people so they can move forward with their lives?
Just stay true to yourself, like we've been saying, because you're never gonna eat. Well, put it this way: if you're a musician, especially if you're playing metal, play it for the love of it. Don't get wrapped up on how many songs you're selling or what your streaming numbers are or anything like that, because a lot of times the best music in the world, you could have the world's greatest guitar player, the world's greatest drummer, the most insane bass player, and the vocalist with the widest range. If it's not resonating with people, it's not resonating, and that's just going to be what happens. But just stay true to yourself, and don't bow to anybody, because if you start making music for the sake of making money, you're not going to be a happy person. You're going to hate your job, basically. There's people every day that are making $250,000 a year, and they come home and they beat their wife up, or they're just miserable pieces of shit because they hate what they do. So don't be that person. It's a lot more mentally stimulating to create the things that you want to create, and even if you make a nickel doing that, that's a win. So don't settle for anything that isn't going to be in your best interests. There's a lot I would like to say. I'm just trying to figure out the way to word it. Be patient. Patience is key. I was in a band before. We had the potential to be one of those bands that back in the 90s that you'd still be hearing about today, but there was not a lot of patience in the band, and people were quitting the band without giving things time to happen. They were happening, but they wanted it sooner. Got to be patient. So yeah, just things like that. Be patient. Be true to yourself. From my personal experience, I found out that you don't need the most expensive gear in the world to create the music that you want to create. All my stuff is old pawn shop stuff, and it's all used stuff. I don't have a single new instrument. I never have. And you know what? I created something that people like to hear, that people swear is professionally done. And it's all about the diligence of how you can create the sounds that you want to create and get them as close as the music in your head as you want. A better instrument is not going to make you a better player. A better piece of gear is not going to make your sound that much better unless you know how to use it. And if it's going to help you to create the sound that is in your head, absolutely. But don't just buy it because some guy with a limitless budget says you need it, because it's not always the case. I guess that's all I have to say. I don't know.
No, that's good. But I had to quote Tarantino, because I know you mentioned him earlier, from Pulp Fiction. Spoke like a true prodigy. So, right. Thank you so much for sharing this, Krystof. It really does mean a lot. So,
thank you very much, and it was my pleasure to do this interview with you.
No worries. Well, real quick, in honor of Ozzy Osbourne, can you do a real good Sharon real quick?
Sharon!
Well, can you do it like a black metal sort of that scream right there?
Sharon!
There. Sharon! So, yeah. Or we wanted to do like a low growl, be like Sharon or something. Oh, man. God bless Ozzy. Oh, man. He really been through a lot, but, man, he still comes out on top.
He deserves every accolade that's given to him.
Yep. believe the miraculous, if we want to say grace of God at this point, especially for all the shit he's put in his body. So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he certainly has put a lot in his body, but you got to wonder how much of the stories are embellished too. There's the people that don't like him that are going to say he, okay, he bit the head off of the bat. No, he bit the head off of 10 bats and then he fucked a sheep afterward. It's like you're always going to hear that stuff too. And as far as the drugs, yeah, he did drugs, but he might not have done as much as people want you to think he did. How many people I talked to, they're like, oh, look at him, drugs ruined him. It's like, no, he's got Parkinson's. That's going to do more to him than what the drugs did to him. Same thing with Muhammad Ali. People would say, oh, you got punched in the head so many times. Like, no, Muhammad Ali actually didn't get hit in the head all that much. Parkinson's is what got him to where he is. So I wish, people would just stop putting their biases on things like that.
I guess so. But I will admit, I saw like an old interview. It was like him trying to pour like a glass of orange juice. It was just like shaking all over the place. I don't know if it was like the early sign of Parkinson's, but I think at the time he'd be like, he must be high on something. So
yeah,
I mean, he was still young. Yeah.
We assume that because of the reputation he has, but how much of the reputation is based on fact versus how much of it was embellished? And again, not that he didn't do drugs and not that he didn't drink, but was it as much as everybody says he did?
I mean, I still believe it when they said they snuck cocaine using the speakers into the studio when they were doing Black Sabbath Volume 4. So
some of the memes I've seen on that were, it shows like these kids with like powdered donut all over their face, and it's like Black Sabbath at the Volume 4 recording sessions.
I would believe it. So,
yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, Krystof, we reached my podcast right here. We talked a little over an hour and 30 some minutes. Got any shout outs? Any final words you want to say?
Yeah, shout out to Jason and State of War, obviously. Shout out to my friends in Atomic War Machine back in Massachusetts. They're still grinding along. And, man, I'd love to shout out to everybody, the people that supported me. It's just the number is so massive, but Rick Berthod, the legendary blues guy around here, Karrion Kross, the WWE wrestler, we're friends, and I've done a lot of his tattoos. And he's just such a great guy, and he's supported me from the beginning on this. My wife, my daughter, my grandson, everybody. It's been a wild ride so far, and it's been largely incredibly positive. Big shout out to Wormhole Death Records who signed us, and everybody there has been amazing. And I don't want to chew up all your time, but I'm just really happy to be in the position that I'm in and the place that I'm in because life has been treating me really well, especially over the past 10 years or so. So no complaints there.
That's for sure. I gave you a follow on Spotify there too. So.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it, man.
No worries. But speaking of which, what social media and stream platforms are you on so they can check out your music and interact?
As far as I know, I don't think the new one's on Tidal because it was released through the label, and I'm not sure if they work with Tidal or not. But Pandora, Spotify, YouTube. I'm very technically inept on a lot of stuff, so when it comes to a lot of the stuff, I don't know what they are. But definitely Pandora, Spotify, and YouTube. Instagram is at Gravethorn _official. Pretty easy to find on Facebook. So yeah.
All right, sounds good. And to close, I like this. And first of all, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Conant?
Conant.
Conant. Okay. So everyone, my guest today was Krystof Conant, hailing from the lovely city of Sin City, Las Vegas. So he's part of his own little group there, Gravethorn. So go have all socials, all streaming platforms. I'll also give a shout out to Bobby there too for helping you out there, brother. So
thank you very much, Brian. Much appreciated.
No worries, Chris. So you do stay safe and God bless you. So you stay safe, rock on. Stay tuned, y'all.
Ditto.